We're going to focus on process cost flows. So what we did in previous chapters was focus on a per job basis, meaning anytime there was an order, we would cost it directly to the job. But what happens when we have a customer or a company, pardon me, that is all about the process? So think about Coca-Cola. They just continuously produce Coca-Cola and eventually in their warehouses sort out where it goes. Their manufacturing is focused on the process, meaning they need to continuously manufacture, but they go through different areas. So in Coca-Cola's example, it could be a bottling or a mixing area, a cooking area, and a bottling before it goes into the finished product inventory. So again, it still goes from the direct materials on our balance sheet of an inventory into the process, and it goes through different departments before it ends up in finished products. So we're going to look at example 6.1 that has a concrete company producing concrete blocks in two departments. Now the two departments are mixing and curing. So it's going to go from our direct materials to the mixing, to the curing, to the finished products. Now one thing that just is important to note, direct materials can go into both. Maybe mixing gets most of them, but curing gets a certain product to help with cure. But a lot of the time they'll follow this, and sometimes direct materials will jump into a different department. But for the most part, this is the plan. So if we have raw materials that were used in production, the mixing department were used in the mixing department and the curing department, how would we do that? Well, we're going to take our raw material, our mixing department, and we included 30,000. So we'll debit 30,000. The balance of the mixing department goes up. This is work in process, work in process mixing. And we're also going to debit our work in process curing. And that is going to be at 7,000. So where did this come from? Well, this came from our direct materials, which will be a credit of 37,000. Now we had a direct labor cost incurred. So with our direct labor costs, we're not going to have these wages go into like an overhead. They're going to go directly into our work in process because we need to apply these costs to our work in process. So again, we're going to debit our work in process, and this is our mixing department, and we're going to debit our work in process curing department, and the amount was 20 and 6,000. And we are going to credit our wages, assuming we haven't paid them, wages payable. So this is the expense now. We've just moved, we haven't expensed it, because remember, we don't expense until we sell the finished good. So until we sell, it's not an expense, it's actually an asset. Now we are going to apply our manufacturing overhead. And so we're going to do that in the same method. Again, our mixing department, our work in process, mixing department, our work in process, curing department, the amounts were 25 and 40,000 respectively. And we're going to credit our manufacturing overhead of 65,000. Now we have partially completed concrete blocks that were transferred from the mixing department to the curing department. according to the company's process costing system, the cost of the transferred block were $72,000. So we went again from mixing to curing. So this work in process needs to move along. So no problem. How we do that is we would simply debit our work in process curing for $72,000. I'm just going to credit our work in process mixing. And so what this does is reduce our mixing amount by $72,000, and it increases our curing because the product has moved through that process. And finally, we have finished blocks were transferred from the curing to the finished goods warehouse. According to the company's process costing system, the cost of the blocks were $115,000. And so all we have to do again is take our finished goods inventory, and we're going to debit that, $115,000, and we're just going to remove it from the balance of our work in process. So these are now no longer in process. They've moved through the entire facility, and they are sitting in our finished goods. And so that's it. We're just showing through journal entries the process of this company.